But I think with literature, the nuances that are there with really good writers, you notice something different every time you revisit it. There's a line that speaks to you differently, your experiences change. And so with that, and older and older and older, 30 years later is different, 5 years later is different. My experiences every year change, and so do individuals. So when kids say, well, I read that in 7th grade, or we read Mockingbird already, or you're not the same person. So you bring a different experience to the table, and I think I do that. I'm not saying that by the end of the day, it's like enough of this already, or whew, I'm glad we're through this. But no, I think students bring something different to it, and so do I every time. So I don't get bothered by that. Actually, I think it's fun. I kind of view a lot of things as old friends. A Christmas Memory, I don't know if you remember that Truman Capote story about the woman who baked fruitcakes. It's fruitcake weather, remember that, Buddy? I read that, and every year I welcome the reading of it because it reminds me of the value of traditions and how important, even though I don't want to bake cookies this year and have the mess in the kitchen, and I think, but they do, because that's what we do. And traditions often centered around food define family events, and you don't ever want to let go of that.
Would you say that the conversation between different classes when regarding literature has kept your interest peaked? Just the different kinds of perspectives you get in the classroom year by year? That's
a good way to say it. It is that. It's student perspective, it's the different tone of the conversation, it's different people's experiences, and what they're willing to share. So there has to be that element of trust that you feel comfortable sharing what it is and relating it to something that does or does not apply to you. Never in a million years, or that looks like my Uncle Joe, kind of thing. So I really enjoy that. I enjoy reading.
Do you think that was a cornerstone in picking English?
And history. History is a lot of reading too. Yeah. The difference is you've got your fictionalized universe when you're doing literature. Not all the time, but there is that option. History is what it is.
And you mentioned,
so important.
You mentioned a little bit how history and English are intertwined.
Oh yeah.
So do you think even if you chose history, do you think you'd have any problem with it?
Oh no. It's just that it's all nonfiction.
Yeah.
It's straight up, and it's so interesting to study it and then see the application. When you add literature to the mix, then you have just a richer experience, I think, knowing both. Yeah.
Do you wish you could have taught both?
I think I kind of do.
Yeah,
if you think about it. Anytime, think back to your experience with me, that we read something, we're looking at Dickensian England and what are some of the social issues that he wrote about in every one of his books, and how laws even were changed as a result of a social conscience that he was helping to develop regarding the Industrial Revolution and what was happening with the influxes of people, and the Oliver Twist story and Great Expectations, false pride, misplaced ambition, the class divisions, and some of the research we did at that. Think of the Great Depression with John Steinbeck writing in the 30s, and the effect of the Dust Bowl on the individual. Collective masses, we all know the horror stories, but look what it did to individual lives that were destroyed by the experiences. And I think you start looking a lot at that. You can't help but get excited about teaching history as it's reflected in literature.
So just as sort of a final question, what is your favorite thing or literature element to teach, be it a story, a short story, or a period of time, or anything that you just get excited for when you see it coming in the planner?
Oh, I love Great Expectations, I do. It's one of my favorites, but there's no denying Mark Twain's Huck Finn, his ability to access language in a way, in an art form that had never been accessed before, disregarded as, but it's part of who we are. That's the way we talk. Maybe not we talk, none of us think we have accents. His ability to do that. You've got Steinbeck all over the place.
Just too hard to
I
choose.
would like the contemporary, Wes Moore, discovering Wes Moore. If you want a contemporary look at what you can do when given second opportunities and chances, and his experiences in a nonfiction book, that's inspiring to me. So Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451, let's not forget the lessons taught about critical thinking skills and appreciating intellectual curiosity, not following the masses mindlessly, not allowing too much government control. I mean, these are topical conversations. Now you look at North Korea and communist Russia and some of the warnings that are put out in both Fahrenheit and the animal farms, and obvious. Orwell saw the potential for mindless following. Where's your common sense, people? Where's your knowledge of history so to avoid the mistakes of the past? You hear that in a cliche all the time, but it's never been more true.
And just as a bonus question, because I'm curious, do you think when Animal Farm was written, when Orwell wrote that, do you think it helped that it was in a different, like it was animals doing this, so it helped us to see it in an objective way, to see it outside of being a part of it? Because when we're a part of it, we don't really think about the consequences of it. When you see it played out in a different society, you get to sort of judge it in a more objective way. Do you think that's a critical part of why that was successful?
That's a really good question. And I think part of it is to get it published.
Yeah.
Put it in a fable-like form, because at the time, he had a difficult time getting it published anyway, but I think if you wrap your head around something on a smaller scale, which he did with a microcosm of the farm, and then you have all those animals who stereotypically represents the people, the pigs, the sheep, mindless followers, the donkey, the this, the that, and you look at all of that, it becomes an engaging read, an accessible read, and then you realize what you've got going here is the rise of communism and the demise of the farm. And they didn't do anything about it until it was too late. But it's almost never too late, because the walls go down. But I think it's a cautionary tale. Be careful. Be careful. Watch what's going on in the world now. Yeah.
I want to thank you for this interview and just everything you've done for Hartley.
Oh, thanks.
Because I know it wouldn't have been
Thank you.
a great place without you. As my freshman year, my first touch of English, you really piqued my interest.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, honest to goodness. But you're not done with me yet. I'm not going anywhere. No, I hope to be back, and maybe my grandchildren will be here someday. You never know.
Well, this has been another episode of Resounded Glory, probably the best one we've had. Thank you.